Hey, welcome everybody. We are back.
Back.
Back from our short little hiatus. Hey, Billy's already on. How you doing? Nice to see you this past weekend.
Hi,
So
Bill.
we are back
Yeah,
from
it
the
was good to see you, Bill.
Shatner weekend, which was a big success. Very busy, but very, very successful. If you got to go, great. If not, you missed a good one.
We'll see you at the next one.
See you
Yeah.
maybe at the next one. Yeah. So so this week we're kind of starting since beginning of July. It's only July 2nd, right? Yeah. We're gonna do kind of old 70s sci-fi that's not like the blockbuster stuff. So not Star Wars, obviously, and not uh what other ones have we have, Close Encounters, that kind of thing. These are the kind of the oddball ones that came out either as a result of Star Wars or way before Star Wars. So today we are doing a 1972's Silent Running by Douglas Trumbull. This is a very interesting movie, but before we get into that, I think you had a little bit of news or no
Well,
news.
the only news I really had was I shared with you, Rizzo, the trailer to the new 2025 Running Man, the remake of the Arnold Schwarzenegger. What do you
November,
think? Tell me your thoughts.
My thoughts. So it was interesting. It's much as one would expect. It's much more modernized version. It looks much less. It's much less campy. So I guess not to give any plot points away, but it looks like it's similar. You have to, he in this case he needs money. I guess it's strictly for money. He wasn't like a prisoner. But they're not just running from these. What did they call them? I don't remember what they called them.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And you know what?
I don't
My
remember
brain is
executioners, but whatever they were.
My brain is going to Logan's Run. Those guys were called
Sandman.
What were they called in Running Man? Yes, Sandman. In Running Man, they were called. I don't remember.
Anyway, whatever they were, they don't have those silly guys. It's everybody on the planet is after you, so you have to stay alive. What is it? It was thinking you have to stay alive for 30 days. And it looks interesting. I mean,
so that's a change, right? That's a change.
Yeah, that was different for it, and actually in the Arnold Schwarzenegger version, it was like on a closed course kind of thing. Whereas this guy can go anywhere, but he does have cameras following him all the time. Stalkers, thank you, Chris.
Yes, Chris Stalkers, thank you. Now wait, Rizzo, is this movie going to be? Because this was based on a book, right? This was a Stephen King book.
Yeah, it was a Stephen King book.
Is this new movie going to be closer to the book, do you think?
That I don't know. Having not read the book, I couldn't tell you, and I'm not even sure it's a full book. I want to say it was probably like a short story.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I'll ask my wife because she's a big Stephen King fan. She would know. But anyway, the still got it wrong. But that's okay, Chris. Keep trying.
Chris, we knew. Let me actually pull that link up, and I will put it in the chat. So other people can.
Yeah, it's again. Watch it. Don't watch it now. Don't leave our show to go watch the trailer. We can't
leave us.
Wait, when the show's over, go watch the trailer. I think like it looks pretty good. Like it might be. It's a popcorn. It's going to be a popcorn movie.
It's going to be a popcorn movie.
Don't look for any deep messages in this. The one thing I guess the guy that originally was the host there on the Arnold Schwarzenegger was what's his name there?
I love you, and no, who I love you, and who do you love?
Well, I mean the actor was from Family
Richard Dawson.
Richard Dawson, and I don't know who the guy they got playing that character, but I always thought they should have put Dave Harvey or Steve Harvey. Not Dave Harvey's our friend.
Steve Harvey's our friend. Yeah.
Steve Harvey in there would have been
Steve Harvey. I love you, and who do you love, or who we love you, or you love me.
I just could see Steve Harvey pulling that off. It'd be funny. Or somebody like Chris Tucker or something.
Who loves you and who do you love? That's how it goes.
Yeah. Damien was his name.
Damien, yeah. I don't know. The whole thing looks none of it.
Well, yeah. You heard my opinion. What is your opinion on it? I mean, what did you?
My opinion is none of it looked recognizable as the movie that I know as Running.
No. Well, I mean, other than the fact that he's running for his life, and of course,
and that's it. And it's still a game. It still seems like it's some kind of.
But the difference that you get was that everybody on the planet or anybody in the city, so to speak, can go out and get him. Like, so he's like everybody's trying to get him. I'm sure there's a prize for whoever kills him. You know what I'm saying? If somebody actually kills him, then I'm sure I bet you that's how it's going to be. So
yeah, I don't know. So now part of me is wondering, should I go ahead and read that short? Like, if this is going to be, should I go ahead and read that short story and then see this movie, or should I just see the movie and go, okay, I guess that's the right way?
Does it? Excuse me. Does it matter? I mean, if it
probably not. I mean, if this is going to be closer to, it kind of matters because that's 1987. So that's 20, 30.
30. Just keep going. Math is hard.
28 years ago, right?
2020 was 20 years ago was 2005.
40. We're coming up on its 50th. Oh my God. Here's there's like our generation is dying off, right? We all remember the old one and what Running Man
right. I know it's like 20 years ago doesn't seem like it should be 2005.
Generations of kids gonna be younger people gonna see this and be like, oh, that's Running Man. No, honey, it's not Running Man.
No, well, it's just like music and stuff. But the thing is, it's we always talk about should you remake these movies, and I think this one's probably fine to remake. This is never a classic.
Yes, that was and I talked about that with you. I said, should we do remake it or leave it alone and just list some of these one-off movies and decide remake it or leave it alone? If you guys want to see that as a show some night, let us know.
I mean, is it worth remaking?
Was this movie worth remaking?
I mean, they remade. They also remember they remade what was the other Arnold one around that same time? That was the Mars one. Total Recall. They remade Total Recall, and like nobody even hardly knew it, and because it was a totally different movie.
Yeah, and it wasn't as good, which is what I'm worried about for this one.
Yeah, it came out around the same time the Judge Dredd, the Carl Urban Judge Dredd.
Our poor audience is like me. Oh, we're old. Yes,
yeah, so we're all old. That's why they watch us. We're all old.
Yes,
we're all old. So anyway, yeah, I won't go to the theater to see it. I highly doubt that. But I'll probably watch it when it finally.
I'll wait for it to come to TV. Yeah,
on video at some kind. Whether it be on HBO or something like that, I'll probably watch it. So, yeah, it's worth. Watch the trailer. Let us know what you think. Curious with the consensus. So anyway, yeah. So were we going to want to talk about the Shatner weekend, or
super fast Shatner weekend recap? Those of you who are with us.
So it was more than just the Shat. We had Barbara Luna, Tanya. What was her last name?
Lamani. Her name is Lamani.
She was the belly dancer in Wolf on the Fold. That got killed pretty early on.
Yeah.
Sandy Gimple was there.
Yes.
Our good friend Robin Curtis was there again. The Okudas were there.
Love them.
And Dave Blass was there. And who else? Who am I missing? And
Darren. Although Darren wasn't there.
Darren's kind of always there.
Yeah. He wasn't. He had no official anything. He wasn't given a talk.
No, Darren is kind of Bill's crutch for tours. Like so.
Yeah, he's Bill's crutch on tours.
Throws in the information.
Yeah.
So, Bill was really looking good, by the way. I know he had some health problems. His weight is down in a good way. I think he looks better than he did the last couple times. Honestly, at 94, the guy is just phenomenal. And he really, I don't know. I was on security and I was exhausted. I mean, it really, because he just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. He's like the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a unusually rough schedule this time around. He did 5. He normally does 3. This time he did 5 admirals, tours, and bridge chats. That's 5 tours where he has to walk through the whole ship, and 5 chats plus 2 captain's chats on top of that. 7 chats.
Yeah.
Plus 2 live on stage on top of that.
Yeah.
Guys, he's 94.
In the heat, because it wasn't air conditioning.
Huh? And
in the heat.
No air conditioning.
And the air conditioner at the set was kind of iffy at times. It was kind of.
The set got better the second day. It was warm on
Friday.
It was
better once he got it defrosted. Just the other air conditioner. But the thing with Bill is like he that Friday, remember, he even tell you he was up at 3 a.m. LA time. He almost missed his connection, so he was almost going to be late. So he doesn't get to the studio till 4:30, 5 o'clock. I think right at 5 o'clock is when he showed up Friday. And then he did what? 2 tours and bridge chats back to back.
Yes.
That was his first after flying. And then the next day it was like we hit the ground running. It was between bridge chat. I think we had tour, bridge chat, photo op, tour, then another tour, and then 2 chats, and then on stage, and then autographs, and then the dinner.
And then the dinner.
And then
yes, I think I can tell some of the behind the scenes information about that flight. His first flight was horribly delayed, or something was going on. So he
said he made it. He was going to Denver. He got it to Denver fine, but it was the connecting flight that was late.
It was the connecting flight. So DIA, Denver International, for Mr. Shatner and only for Mr. Shatner, not only held his connecting flight, they didn't take off on time. They were being held.
That was in New York, I think.
No, that was in Denver.
No, but he made it to Denver on time. It was the connecting flight that was picking him up in Denver was late, so they were late going to New York, and then it was up to Burlington.
It was in Denver, and they not only did they hold it for him, but they moved it. They moved gates so that he got off one flight and he only had to go one gate over to get on his next flight, and then they went.
That's not the story he told us.
That's the story Tommy told me.
Yeah, but Bill was there. Tommy wasn't. Tommy was on a different flight.
Billy would have told Tom. Anyway, the point is...
This is what Bill told him. What's the difference? It doesn't matter. He
made
it. They did move the gate.
They will move heaven and earth for you.
Yes, they do. They do. That's for sure.
Which is unbelievable.
Yeah. It's interesting because after the dinner, for whatever reason, he decided to come out when Joel was going to get the car.
Yeah.
Bill all of a sudden, normally we kind of, as door security, we keep things clear till he comes out of the building, and he pops out the door, and I'm like, Joel's not here yet. And he's like, he just wanted to be out of the building. He was hot or whatever reason. And it's amazing how fast he's like honey and there's flies, because it didn't, in the 3 or 4 minutes we were waiting for Joel, cars were slowing down. They immediately recognized who's standing on the sidewalk. Yeah. And we're like, oh boy, come on, Joel, get here so we get this guy out of this. I'm out of here.
Yeah, get him away from people. Yeah.
Because people, they're nice, but they, can I get a selfie? Can I talk? No. So
unfortunately, yes, that's not the time to do that.
That's our job, to be the bad guy and let Bill just be Bill.
Yeah. So we had a huge crowd. We had more than usual.
A lot of vendors.
I
was really surprised how many vendors we had. So
the photo line went. Those of you who've been and you kind of know, it went across the front of our building, down the side of the Cobbler's Bench, which is the building. As you're looking out to the parking lot, that's the building on the right. Across the front of the Cobbler's Bench, and then up the next street over.
Well, it always does that. Yeah, it's always kind of wrapped around.
There's like over 400 people that we did photos for, which is unreal. Got them done in an hour-ish, but got them done.
About that, yeah.
Yeah,
we don't. I know it's not really the time to talk. We got to build in some more break time for that man, though, so we get some eat. I used
to build in a whole break. I used to build him in a whole lunch hour, and then Gary told me nope. Next thing. Always pack it tight.
All right. Well, but that's how we end up being. But that's also how we end up running behind.
But it kind of all worked out. He only needed to stop for a sandwich, like in between the two afternoon chats.
Yeah, that was funny because I wasn't aware that was going to happen. So I ended up standing on the bridge with 25 people. And
you were the babysitter?
I was the only
we loaded him in, yeah.
So I'm like, they didn't tell me he was going to go. I thought he was coming right up the ramp. And I'm like, okay, I'm the only one standing here. So I'm like, should I say something? So it's like, Bill will be out in a minute. He's just taking a quick break, kind of thing. And then I was just making, jokes like, anybody a Star Trek fan here? Kind of stupid, And the one thing I did say, I said, if he asks you what your favorite Star Trek movie is, you make sure you say Star Trek 5. So I got a laugh. So then, like 2 minutes later, Bill comes out, and I said, "Hey, I was keeping him entertained for you." And he goes, "Oh yeah, what were you doing?" I said, "Just talking." And he goes, "What'd you say?" And I told him that. I said, "Well, if you ask him what movie is their favorite, usually Star Trek 5." He said, "That's very good advice."
No, we loaded him in because it was hot. It was very hot and very humid. and we thought we should get them into the air-conditioned comfort and let them have a seat rather than leave them standing out there sweating.
It just would have been nice if somebody gave me a heads up before.
I'm sorry. I thought you were following what was happening.
Yeah,
there's
it was all good. It was all good in the end. So, yeah, it was not a problem. I just if I was prepared, I could have had more material. So
I thought you were Johnny on the spot. You
well, I
usually
was apparently right. Apparently, see, Bill said I did a good job. So.
That and so yeah, Shatner worked hard, and then Robin hosted mini golf, and then on Saturday in the evening she did a presentation on the bridge with Dave Blass about Otoy's unification, kind of a little behind the scenes sort of, which I didn't get to see. I hope it was.
I didn't get to see anything except I saw all of Bill's tours and all of Bill's bridge chats.
You saw a lot of Bill that weekend.
I can tell you, I can give you the tour. If you want the same exact tour he gave, it just wouldn't be him telling the story. It's just be me. So probably it doesn't have the same cachet.
I did see a video of John kicking David Blass.
Right, yeah. So that was the highlight. Dave Blass was on one of the tours, and for some reason, I don't know how it even came about. John decided he was gonna do a roundhouse kick to, I guess Dave wanted him to do it. So John Kerrigan did a roundhouse kick to Dave's face. And he did it so well, even with John had a little sound effect, you almost thought that he hit him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of hits his own leg, so he makes a smack sound, and everybody's like, did he actually hit him?
And Dave sold it. Dave froze and went like that. And so you're like, oh my God, he really hit him. Like he sold it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have it on video, but I can't post it publicly.
Kelly says she saw people, lots and lots of people. Yeah, the school was full. The vendors were going full blast. I got good reports from all of my vendors saying they had they sold more than they ever had before.
They'll join us, I see. So
Phil is here. Phil is going to be in the chat. Phil is going to be our resident expert tonight. Am I allowed to say where your dad worked, Phil? I'm gonna, so don't get mad at me. Phil's dad, this movie has a special place in Phil's heart because his dad worked for American Airlines. And of course, in this movie, American Airlines is emblazoned on everything. And also, he got to chat to Bruce Dern. He met Bruce Dern somewhere, somehow. Tell us again, Phil, how you met Bruce Dern. And he had a chat with him.
Could I have Phil on?
That's what I said. I was like, Phil, you could have been on. All right, Rizzo, what are we drinking tonight as we talk about?
Well, I was trying to come up and I came up with this one.
The air freight, American Airlines air freight, yes.
Daiquiris, as my mother-in-law used to say. Because, you remember he was always eating a cantaloupe.
Yeah, it's always a cantaloupe.
So,
Which how they got a cantaloupe.
So it's pureed cantaloupe and white rum, some simple syrup, some maraschino cherry juice, and a little lime juice, and just splash a little seltzer on there when you're done. Yeah, it could be good.
Delicious. It's
a very summery drink.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, it doesn't sound bad. So could be good. So, you got to get on the Valley Forge, though, I guess, to make that.
The Valley Forge, speaking of the Valley Forge, so we'll pop right off with our first fact. They filmed it on the decommissioned aircraft carrier, the Valley Forge.
Yeah, they literally tore it apart after filming was complete. And, it's funny, I didn't know that when I was watching it for this show. I'd seen it years ago. I hadn't seen it recently. And I'm like, that the whole control room looks like the interior of a naval ship.
Right?
I was like, because it is.
Yeah, they took over the entire ship. They had they used the cafeteria. They had rooms for special effects, working on special effects. They had rooms for editing. They even had rooms that they were using as classrooms for the 2 of the 4 people who were playing the droids, and we will talk about the droids and the people playing the droids. 2 of the 4 people playing the droids were under 18 and were still in school, so they technically had to have school for them. So they even had a room that became a classroom for them. So yeah, they used the whole ship.
So we kind of need to back up. Those of you guys know, that Douglas Trumbull did the special effects for 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was his big claim to fame, obviously, at that time. So he did the model work and stuff like that on that, and he wanted to be a director. So at the time, after I think it was what was the biker movie there that Bruce Dern I think was on, or was it Bruce Dern that was in it, or was it Fonda? I think was the one I'm thinking of.
Might have been Fonda. Easy Rider.
Easy Rider, I think, when that came out. So that was kind of a semi-independent. So the studio decided, hey, you know what? Let's try some more of these semi-independent movies. Let's give these guys $1 million. We'll let them run. We'll let them go without any interference from us. They get final cut, and we'll see what we get because the other movie was a success. So that's how Doug Trumbull basically got to be able to do this. He wanted to direct. He had never directed anything before this. So they got the $1 million. So they did this whole movie on $1 million budget,
which was,
and even for 1972, 71, it was a very small budget to work with. And let's face it, it kind of shows. I mean, to save money, he did a lot of stuff. Like he hired film students to do like to build the models and stuff like that. Some of the stuff is you can kind of see is not the best quality as far as like when you really look at it.
But
and you can't say, well, it was standard definition because it was still a movie, so the movie's had high definition.
Yes, you are right, Rizzo. Some of that stuff does not hold up, but some of the shots, the ship shots in space, actually were pretty good for the 1972.
Of course, we all know they took all those ships those ag ships and they reused them for Battlestar Galactica. They were the agriculture, which is pretty obvious. The one of the things there's like niggles about the ships is let's talk about the ships since we're on it. One thing is I didn't get was if they were trying to use these ships to save all of our vegetation and animal life on the planet. Why were they out by Saturn? Like, what was the point of putting them all the way on the other side of the solar system?
Rizzo,
why were they in orbit around Earth?
How does blowing them up? Why couldn't they just detach them?
Well,
because there's no power.
Well, apparently they did because at the end it had lights.
He gets detached. And he had lights. They could have just detached all of them.
Well, the other thing that, and this is a niggle. This is a niggle that bothered me though. But like, so they're like a mushroom, right? They're the cap of the mushroom. The base of the mushroom is attached to the ship. So when they enter and exit the forest, they go from the side. It's a side tunnel. Where's that coming from? It should be like an elevator.
Doug actually had this idea to make, I don't know if the entire freighter or just the end, because you know how they were clustered on the end? It was a long, thin freighter, and then they were clustered on the end. He wanted that to rotate to simulate gravity. That was
the other thing I had is they apparently have invented artificial gravity at this time. So
let me actually just say what Phil is saying here. Hung out with Bruce Dern. He got to hang out with Bruce Dern during a convention, told him the story of my dad working at American Airlines Air Freight and how meaningful the movie was at some point, was to him. And so at some point after chatting with him a bit, this was a smaller convention, he ended up walking up behind me and put his arm around me and said, "Thank you so much for telling me the story about your dad. That was really great." Bruce was a great guy. I loved chatting with him about silent running and his time on that aircraft carrier. Bruce is kind of cool. I know him from more modern movies. Like I'd never seen him that young before. And the one that I just get a giggle out of is, have you ever seen Down Periscope with Kelsey Grammer? And it's like a submarine goof movie. He's in it, and he's like the bad guy, and it's hilarious. He's very funny in it. So
he's a method actor, and so like when he's telling the story about the girl will never see the leaf or whatever, that little story, and he's crying, I guess he literally was, I guess he lost a daughter at like 2 years old or something like that.
Did he?
So he was like channeling that grief to make that scene.
You know, and again, I said to you this before the show started, I always find this undercurrent of sweet sentimentality in Doug Trumbull's work. And this is a really good example. Did you notice the watering can? Maybe that was meant to have been, so the character is meant to have family back on Earth. The character was meant to have a daughter, a little girl back on Earth. And that watering can was meant to have been hers. Because you wouldn't use a watering can.
I mean, you get the, so the character, he's clearly a very crunchy, very hippie-like character.
In that robe, his Jesus robe.
He's the only person that gives a crap about the plants and the animals. The other guys are just there. They're eating their synthesized food and they're perfectly happy. But you're right. The whole premise of, we're scrapping the program, we're going to jettison these things,
just blow it up,
makes no sense because you really went all this effort to put this stuff in space. But it just seems like, okay, so you're not going to try to put this stuff back on Earth? I don't understand.
Yeah. So is that enough
explanation there?
not to reforest the planet. Like, I don't
it was just
understand.
like, oh yeah, it was like they should have made like I don't know. I don't know what would have been better, but clearly they just needed some excuse for him to go rogue.
Yeah, well, yeah,
and it's like he quickly comes up with, well, I guess the fight with the one guy when he's trying to say you're not going to blow this one up, and he kills him.
Yeah,
but
he kills
I
all
think
three
that's
of
when
them.
he decided that he's going to save this thing, and you guys understand the whole point of the name of the movie is called Silent Running because he's trying to hide from the other ships.
Yes,
which is a naval term. Which is a naval term to go into basically stealth mode, like a submarine
stealth
goes
mode.
silent running
And
so that they don't
he's
make
going
any
around
noise.
the back of Saturn.
Yeah, he went
Apparently,
through the ring.
Doug very briefly entertained the idea of having all the droids go out and actually paint the ship black, which would really truly be, I mean, for you'd be invisible in space, but they abandoned it. It was just going to be too hard to film, so they abandoned it. But yes, the point of Silent Running is he was trying to hide from them when he went behind Saturn. But yeah, we never find out. Like, the movie is its own little world, and yet there's so much of this world we don't know. We don't know what happened on Earth that made Earth.
Yeah, they never explain that.
Completely deforested. But it's all 75 degrees, but everybody's happy, and
they seem like everybody happy, like everybody has a job, and everybody it's just, and it's like, so
I'm so confused.
It's not like the Earth is like, it's not dystopian, because it just sounds like there's no. It's more like Coruscant.
Like Coruscant. Yes, exactly.
It's like everybody's happy, and he's so that's maybe why they decided they didn't give a crap about but I don't know how it doesn't, none of that, but that really wasn't the point of the film, I guess.
But I would have liked to have known like how the ships got launched, how the forests got picked and were grown inside those domes, and then
how the domes got had $1 million to work with. That was
I know, but I want to know
like another movie.
Well, when you're an actor, they tell you to figure out your backstory. So I want to know the backstory.
Yeah, but each dome had a different ecosystem. See, one was like a desert.
Yes.
One was a regular forest. They had one, I don't know, like it's more tropical, I guess. So clearly they were trying to, save different ecosystems. But again, I was my brain was kind of racked because I didn't understand why they were out by Saturn and why they had all this cargo on board. Although apparently it looked like it was to maintain the
it was to maintain the forests, I guess. The agriculture.
I didn't understand the whole point of jettisoning and then blowing them up.
Why blow them up?
Why blow them up?
That made no sense. Yeah, Christopher says, think happy, Soylent Green. And Phil is saying, whatever's going on back on Earth, the picture that's painted by his coworkers, it's only through their eyes, so it's not necessarily an accurate depiction. Yeah, that's true. His 3 coworkers thinks everything's okay on Earth, but we don't really know what's going on.
I mean, we get the impression that it's not like they've been out there for decades. Like
Jordan says 8 years at some point.
He was there 8 years, but the other guys were there. They were 6 months. They mentioned they're 6 months into a 1 year.
1 year trip, yeah. And Bruce said he was there for 3 years. So wherever the technology is advanced that you can easily go from Earth to Saturn, or at least to a ship around Saturn, easily, I guess.
Right. Well, that would probably be, like I said, I don't understand why they were out that far anyway. It would seem to me that if you're going to do this, why wouldn't you just keep it in orbit around Earth. Or near Earth orbit or something?
Anywhere.
Around Mars? The moon, why wouldn't you just build it on the moon? Why have it in ships?
Just leave the domes on the moon. Maybe they were mining.
How about build the dome on the planet?
A lot of questions, Doug Trumbull. Doug Trumbull, come back to Earth and answer your questions, because I don't know what's going on.
Yes, come back from the grave and explain this.
Come back from the grave and tell us what
it was. The movie, the whole message was, again, it was clearly an environmental protection message. And it's interesting that here we are back in 1972 and people are already aware of damage to our environment. And here we are almost 50 years later, and we're still screwing around. I mean, whether
and nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. So, that was my takeaway from the film.
First Earth Day, guys, was 1970. So, and Silent Spring was what year Silent Spring was. So, I mean,
But basically, that was just the movie. It's very, it's not a. So if you haven't seen it and you're looking for an action-packed thriller in space, this is not your movie.
No.
It's more about. I'm not trying to think of what
It's
the main goal. It's about
it's
his
the first
him.
eco sci-fi,
Yeah.
ecological sci-fi.
Yeah, and it's about his journey and him trying to save it and then realizing he can't. So we lose the one
Now, wait, and that's
one.
another question. Okay, let's talk about the little droids. Why does Dewey have to die with Bruce Dern? Couldn't he
Yeah, that was a
stay
good
on the thing
question
and keep
too.
Dewey
He
company?
well, he felt his arm wouldn't work anymore. So the only thing I could take away from that
So
was he was useless to the other droid because his arm didn't work and he couldn't, so that he was just going to take up resources, in the dome. He couldn't do anything because his arm was so busted up.
he should have kept
Like,
the other droid company. I don't know. I thought that was
well, you're putting
that's
personality to a droid.
they had personality. Did you notice some of the little things
They
between the
did
droids?
because they were
They
talking
touched
back
each
like
other
when
and they looked at
they
each
were
other
cheating during poker.
and
That
they were
was kind of,
cheating during poker.
So I mean, yes, they gave him
He didn't want to
personality.
let die alone. But Phil, the droid, didn't want to die at all. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I would have probably set the other droid off with the two of them together. Yes, I
keep
agree.
each other
I agree
company.
that was kind of silly, but that's how the only reason I could think of why he did it was that there's only a limited amount of resources on the dome. Apparently, it has its own power source, because the light stayed on after they shot it off the ship.
I mean, he could. I mean,
Yeah, and then what was the point of? I mean, eventually everything's going to die, so you didn't really save anything.
no.
In fact, it'd probably die more of a horrible death if there's any animals because they'll suffocate when they run out of oxygen. Although you figure the plants make the oxygen.
Generate. I mean, I don't know. Is it a
But
fully
the water
enclosed,
recycling.
like,
I mean,
biodome?
that was the thing. I think without the ship, I don't see the dome surviving because I'm sure the ship was supplying it with water, recycling the water, and doing all that stuff. That it wasn't just the dome. But that's not the point of the film. It's not Star Trek. We're not trying to explain all the tech.
We can't help it. We've been trained to look for these things.
I know,
now.
but it does irritate me because those are little plot holy things.
So our droids, our adorable little droids, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and there was actually a fourth, which we only
no, there was only ever 3.
No, there was that big one that was like Gronk one, Gonk. They were looking out the window at one point, and there's a big one that came along. Anyway.
Oh, I missed that.
They were played by what's called a bilateral amputee, whether it's actually an amputee or whether you were born that way. It's someone who's only from the waist up and they don't have legs. And so what you saw was their torso inside the trapezoid shape, and it was their hands kind of walking along. Yep. And it was very effective. It was very effective.
It was effective. It was interesting, but again, you look at it as a design. You're like, why are they designed that way to be so awkward? I mean, it was a way to kind of make the droids usable.
It was a great way to hide because no one would think bilateral.
Well, I mean, like I'm saying, if you made the droid like a Star Wars droid or something,
but people were thinking actual, yeah.
So, or you'd have to make it. It was a way to save money, I think, too, because you didn't have to animate this thing.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So,
but this did directly inspire George Lucas. Like George Lucas saw that and was like, "Oh, I could get a person," and then supposedly that led to R2D2.
Well, since you're bringing that up, one of the students that was building the models for him was Dykstra. Who we know went on to do, I don't know, a little movie called Star Wars.
Little thing, couple 6 years later, called Star Wars.
Yeah. So that was kind of an interesting the connection there. But I don't know. Do you have the numbers on how this movie did? I don't think it was stellar.
It did not do well. I know the budget was 1.3. I do not actually have a box office number. However, it has since kind of become a bit of a cult following. Like it's, a bit of a cult classic, as they say. So it kind of is still out there, even though it tanked at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it just, like I said, I think it's just too slow. It's a little it's definitely preachy, probably, especially for 1970.
Sure.
Although there's a lot of hippie culture, so I think maybe they were hoping to hit that. You got Joan Baez singing the theme song.
Yeah,
which there was a whole scene where she's singing, and it was just like, I don't know, that didn't work for me at all. That whole
I didn't like it either.
It was like, I don't know, it wasn't necessary. Didn't add anything to the
I don't
story.
care for overly sentimental, sappy.
I mean, really, when you come down to it, once he killed off the rest of the crew, which was only 3 guys,
he was good to go. That's all he needed to do.
But I'm like, the rest of the movie was like him just hanging out.
Teaching
the robots how to play poker.
Although him just hanging out, then of course did go on to inspire Mystery Science Theater 3000 directly. Joel has openly said the Joel character, Alone with the Robots, is directly inspired from the Bruce Dern character, Alone with the Robots, in Silent Running. The other thing it kind of inspired, although not as directly, is Red Dwarf. Alone on a ship that's lost, and all you have is. But Red Dwarf ended up having a whole bunch more characters, stuff going on.
Showing his age, he said he saw it in the theater when it came out.
Oh, Bill, I wasn't 1972.
I was 5 years old.
I was not even 1 yet.
Yeah. So no, I wouldn't have seen this in the theater. I don't know what movie.
I did. Oh, speaking of the plot,
I didn't see it.
Someone said this is the same basic plot as this movie called Ark from 1970s. Is that true? Is it the same plot as Ark? Does anybody know?
The name sounds familiar, but
I'd have to go.
I'm not familiar. Phil's saying he saw it the first one in the theater as part of a children's TV show. With these guys, some kids show that. Well, Phil, you got to write lesson.
No, Phil, you're.
No,
I like to know what's going on. Yes, Bill, we are children. I am a child.
Yeah.
So anyway,
well,
there were some cool things. I did like the droids, the robots. I like some of the technology. I love their little runabout vehicle car.
Those are the coolest things, and I think from a kid's standpoint, that was probably the best part of it.
All of those cool fat wheels.
Those little
were custom
things.
built and designed for Doug by his dad, Don Trumbull.
Yeah, they must be electric or something, but they were pretty cool. I'm surprised nobody kind of capitalized that and made something like that because it looked fairly stable.
Yeah, little go-kart.
All the weight down low.
They looked at like 17 different actors for Freeman Lowell until they settled on Bruce. They did look at Larry Hagman. I don't know.
Well, he would have been very young at the time.
He would have been rather young. He would have done Genie by then.
Genie was, yeah, but I'm saying he was young when he did I Dream of Genie. He didn't. I don't know. He didn't. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily see. I think Bruce Dern was a perfect actor for this. I think because he kind of fit that hippie kind of movement, just the way he looked, walking around. I always thought that was funny when he's in like the big bathrobe with the big hippie kind of bathrobe thing.
Yeah, when he was running around in his Jesus robe, I was like, what?
So I guess apparently though. Again, probably to save money, that what they were wearing, their day-to-day stuff, was also a spacesuit.
Yeah, I noticed that.
He was outside and he found the foot, what was left of Louis, and he was in the same outfit. He just had a helmet and gloves on, basically.
Yeah, those are some pretty advanced spacesuits. So that's pretty cool. American Airlines wanted to take the model, Doug Trumbull's model of the freighter of the ship on tour, or have it displayed, but it just apparently was too fragile. It was falling apart even while they were still filming, and they were like constantly like gluing it back together or something. So,
well, again, they kind of took that same long and skinny design. Discovery was like that from 2001. So it was that kind of the idea being that they're using nuclear powered engines, so they want that as far away from the crew as possible for radiation reasons. So you have the engines way in the back, and then you have this command module way at the front, and some stuff in between. So it was kind of the same idea. Now, they never talked about the engines on these. You never really saw them, for that matter.
No, you never see them.
So, but I mean, I think that's the idea of why and in space, you don't have the structural problems you would in a gravity well. So you can build things a little different.
There's a number of science fiction ships who have that same basic idea of it being a super long ship, engines way at the back, fun stuff up at the front.
I think that's the idea, is that the engines are kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
And you don't want them near the crew in case you had a jettison or whatever, or you had a radiation
leak or something. Yeah.
So, that'd be something maybe if Doc, he's not on. Poor Doc had such problems. I don't know if you heard his flight issues. He left. He left Friday night. He didn't get home till Monday because he.
Really?
I won't go into it here.
Oh, Doc. Yeah.
Poor Doc ran into. He'll tell you don't fly. What was it? I think it was United. I think he was flying. So yeah, he had a rough. He should have just stayed.
And was he? Yeah, I was gonna say he was meant to stay the weekend in the first place, wasn't he?
I know. I think he always told us he was going to only be able to stay a couple days.
Oh,
So,
I missed
I don't know, but you can ask him next time you talk to him. We're talking about Doc Alexander, not Dr. Min. We got to get our docs straight.
Phil's saying he loves the soundtrack composed by Peter Stickley. Yeah, the soundtrack itself was fine. I just didn't care for the singing. That part was.
Yeah, I'm not a big Joan Baez fan.
Overly sappy.
And
it was completely on brand for 1970s.
Oh, it was totally on brand for 1972. Absolutely, I agree, and that's why they probably used it. It kind of reminded me. Kelly's Heroes was around that time, a little earlier, I think, but it had that same kind of folky music as their theme song. I don't know if you remember. So it worked better in that film than it did this one, but it just kind of reminded me of it in a way that I guess that was of the time. They thought that was a good idea for music themes, I guess, or movie themes. So anyway.
So this was co-written by Derek Washburn, Michael Cimino, and Stephen Bochco. Now we know Stephen Bochco. He went on to do a number of things. I'm trying to see what the other guys did. Anything that we recognize? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce Dern is really the only. Well, there's the guy that was the voice. Was it Neil or something? Was on the other ship. Was Joseph Campanella, which you guys would recognize. First, you'd recognize his voice right away.
Yes, you would. Derek Washburn did the original screenplay of The Deer Hunter. The original screenplay of The Deer Hunter. Stephen Bochco went on to all kinds of stuff. You guys know, if you ever watched TV and at the end of the TV, there's the closing credits and the guy's typing and he whips the paper out and kind of throws it and it becomes animated and wafts down. That's Stephen Bochco.
So the other thing that's interesting was we were talking about the Saturn scene where they go through the rings and that's where we lose Louis. That was actually supposed to be used in 2001. But they didn't have the technology wasn't quite ready yet to do the scene. So they skipped it in 2001 and he decided to use it here because you got to remember, where did Doug Trumbull come from? Special effects. And then
I mean, he really was rock. He was coming kind of off of that. And
he never directed.
Yeah, he had never directed before. He actually learned while doing this. So yeah. I thought he did fine.
So so that's what he said. He learned how to direct doing this movie. So what was it? 20? I'm sorry, I was reading something. Oh, the model was 26 feet long. I'm like, the freighter had to be way bigger than 26 feet.
More than 26 feet.
The actual model was 26 feet. So 650 Army tank model kits to put it together.
Yeah, they went ahead and cannibalized that's what they do that a lot in films. They get pre-existing kits and then just put them together in new and exciting ways to create new things.
I'm just reading something.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now too. Yes, Phil, you're right. The Bioshock is about ecology, but
so this is interesting. We were asking why they blew them up. So according to interview in Starlog magazine in the late 70s, he revealed that the plot of the movie in the original version of the script was quite a bit different from what they actually filmed. In this version, the space freighters were on permanent duty carrying biological domes. When they finally told to blow the domes and return to Earth is because the freighters are going to be scrapped. So I guess they were decommissioning them. That's why they were going to blow the domes. So
that was
the original idea. So maybe that's
without blowing the dome, since the dome's detached.
Yeah, I guess they figured they were going to wreck the ship. So what were we going to do? I don't know.
Not well thought out, Doug Trumbull. for
But you're
modern
right.
audience.
Yeah, it was. But actually, also came out of this around the same time. Remember, I was talking about that $1 million that the studios were giving. Another famous movie, another famous director was actually caught up in that with a little movie, which was George Lucas's American Graffiti. So that was actually another one that was built on a very low budget, but turned out to be a pretty good film. I like American Graffiti; it's a good movie.
Yeah.
First time we see, a lot of actors like Harrison Ford and stuff like that. Very young.
Yeah, very young Harrison Ford.
Yep, you're right. That was I'm just looking through some notes here. Oh, it was released as a double feature with the Andromeda Strain.
Oh,
Way better movie.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting.
Maybe we might do that one too, because
like we should do that.
A really good movie, and
yeah. Or the new one.
That one been, guys? Tell me, has that one been remade? I feel like it has.
Yes, yeah.
They remade
not as a movie though. I think it was remade as a miniseries.
Yeah.
Somebody know, because somebody who's not me researched this.
Because the original movie still stands, and I don't think it needs to be redone. Yeah, originally the script had hundreds of drones, not just 3. So, you're right. They were going to black out the exterior. That was.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't try. I mean, that would have made sense. That would have been cool, but that's not why. I mean, it would have been too tough to film and then show. Like, how do you show a black ship against the blackness of space?
So another thing I think what you notice when they did eject the domes. So Trumbull you see that sequence where the arms kind of go and you see the explosions and little particles go off here and there. And he got that idea from the Apollo missions when you saw the Saturn V stages separate. But did you notice it looked a really lot like the sequence with the in Star Wars when they jettison the escape pod from the Corellian Corvette? I mean, I noticed that. I'm like, it was like almost shot for shot, very similar with the debris and everything. So clearly Dykstra kept that because that effect was one of the first ones they did in Star Wars that they completed.
Yes.
And they showed that to Lucas, and he was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It looks great. So I know that all came back to that movie, to him doing that because he worked on it.
Alex says hi. Alex just started talking to me. And I'm like, hang on, I'm doing distilled. She's like, oh.
Like he doesn't know this. Oh well. Anyway, I don't know much more to say about this one because it's really just I don't know whether you like it. I mean, what do you guys like this movie? Is it a meh? Is it? Do you consider it?
It's like I appreciate. I applaud the message. Like, all right, good job, message, but whoo, doggy, it's a rough one.
Again, I'm giving him a lot of passes because of the budget, and it's his first directorial.
As I should too. I should give him more of a pass, but I just have so many questions. Like,
this is not a movie I seek out to watch. I will probably never watch it again.
No, I wouldn't seek this out to watch either. Here's the thing, Rizzo, is you and I have both been thrown into movies where they don't give us a lot of backstory and you're just thrown in and it's sink or swim and you start swimming and it works. This is not one of them. This one just leaves me like with my questions.
It leaves me with a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And a lot of why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? You want to know, they could have just put something in like there was a biological disaster on Earth, or we just killed it because we were with overuse of fossil fuels, or it could have been one line just to explain what happened to the Earth and why it is.
Seriously, when they give the command to blow these things up, there's not a single soul in the universe besides Bruce Dern who cares. Who's like, save those, preserve those. That's all.
Like I said, the crew just seemed indifferent. They were like, "Yay, we get to go home."
Yeah, they were like, "Yeah,
that's all they cared about." Like, you only been up there 6 months. It's not like you've been up there for 20 years and you're like, "I'm sick of these trees."
Yeah, Chris is saying it was a movie of its time. It absolutely was a movie of its time. Oh, there's Alex. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Happy last 10 minutes.
Happy last 10 minutes.
Better late than never. Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a product of its times. It's a product of its times in many levels.
Yeah,
because it's like I said, it has this very hippie feel to it. That 60s, kind of thing. But I think I think they could have just put a little bit more effort into the script, like you say, filling in backfilling in some of the gaps. Like, really, why were they blowing up? I think they need to come up with a better reason why they were blowing up the domes, and why they never said why. They just said, "Oh, we're scrapping the program, blow them all up, and come home."
Yeah,
like,
they
why?
say
Like,
they're saying we're
like
returning the freighters to service as freighters.
Yeah.
So that implies some kind of economic, they want to make money, but yeah, there's too many whys, just way too many whys. Phil's saying, yeah, I'm only seeing it from the eyes of the people in charge of the company. Yeah, I mean, that's true, but I got to know what's going on back with the general population. Hey, John, how's your hip? How you doing?
What is hip?
My crew worked very hard this
weekend. Is just having some bourbon right now, probably. And he knows, and he definitely loves us all. We know this. We found this out over the weekend.
You guys all had bourbon and loved each other. Okay.
John had a lot of bourbons.
Okay. Duly noted.
Why blow them up? Why not blow them up? Well, you can say because apparently this was the last of the Gene record.
This is the last of the forest of the planet.
They had no other, unless they had some kind of way to bring it back.
His whole thing, like Bruce has this whole monologue about how this is how Earth is supposed to be. It's supposed to be green and plants and blue skies and all that, and it's not. So he's like the only one who seems to realize this. Surely there's other people on Earth who realize this.
That's all I'm saying. I think they needed to backfill that a little bit, just to kind of make it more sense. And I just would have liked to have had more reason as to why they decided to just scrap it and blow it up, like, whether it was economics or it just wasn't sustainable, or, there was a change in leadership and, like, different people didn't care, that kind of thing. As we see that's certainly a thing, on our current administration, I could see them blowing up the domes.
I could
waste and fraud and abuse, that's their Sorry, try not to get political on the show.
Yeah, we try not to, but we do sometimes.
Yeah, we do.
Anyway,
I think if you don't know my stance by this point, or Mary Beth's, So yeah, so that's about it. I mean, I really don't have much else. I think overall, it's not a bad movie, but it's not something I'm going to go really watch. I think
I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I saw it. So now, from now on, when people talk about silent running, I know what they're talking about.
I mean, you could just literally, you could watch it and skip over the singing scene because there's just nothing that happens there that's worth seeing other than her. Just skip it.
Bill, if you guys want a more deeper dive on this movie, Roy already did this movie on Roy's
Roy's always
tie-dye sci-fi.
So please. So on that note, speaking of Roy and Ross will be joining us next week for the 70s film Dark Star, which came out before Star Wars. This movie again was on a very low budget. It shows, but it has some merit. So we're going to discuss that with Roy and Ross.
Roy and Ross. This is a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah.
Which I love Big Trouble in Little China. So I think
it's just kind of an interesting one. If you've never seen it. And then I don't know after that. I don't know. We're thinking about Star Crash if we're going to really keep with the bad 70s.
Do you want to keep with bad 70s, or do you want to
even Star Crash? They say has people will argue that it has some merit to it, even though it's basically trying to be a Star Wars copy. So I don't know where else beyond that takes us. If there's any films from the 70s that you guys want us to talk about that we haven't already done, that it wasn't really a blockbuster, but maybe fell kind of through the cracks and was worth talking about. This is
tons of them.
We were looking at one, thinking about doing. You guys remember a movie called Demon Seed, which is a really weird kind of AI sort of movie. I know Roy told me that they weren't going to do it because Ross didn't want to do it. So if you've seen the movie and you know what I'm talking about, it gets weird, really weird, but it's not a bad movie. So
Bill is saying, go to Space 1999. When they find out Earth has been deforested, they go, who needs nature? I don't remember that in Space 1999.
I don't know. I don't remember that. I don't know Space 1999 like I know, say Star Trek.
Roy, I need you
Chris
now.
Want a Battle Beyond. That did come up in the conversation, Battle Beyond the Stars. Yeah, John Boy.
I think Roy may have done that one too.
I'm pretty sure he did. I mean, we could do it. I know he's done, like I said, he's done this movie, so
Phil says it was the second season of Space 1999. They decided they didn't need nature anymore. I have to say, that just suddenly took Space 1999 down a notch in my estimation.
Well, those are the people on Earth, not necessarily people on Moonbase Alpha.
Moonbase Alpha doesn't need nature, I guess. So Roy does not have a show this weekend. He is taking a break. Phil, however, he has his usual. He's on the air all day tomorrow, almost
right
like
there. He could
12
tell
hours,
us.
but not quite.
Tell us,
He has, huh?
But he's on here. He could tell us what he's doing.
He's on here, yeah. He has Bill at noon. Well, he can correct me when I'm wrong here. He has Bill at noon. He has his regular show at 4, and then he's filling in for Chris LaPorter at 8 p.m. for the Global Rhythm Show, and then the entire station is doing a reggae marathon. So, get your reggae on, get your dreads.
The only one I know is like Bob Marley, and like,
yeah, it's pretty much the only one I know too.
What's the red one? When what's the? I don't know. So, all right. Well, that kind of, I think, pretty much wraps it up. It's just about 8 o'clock, 3 minutes shy. Yes. It is 4th of July weekend, so people enjoy your Independence Day. Don't blow your hands off.
Happy Canada Day yesterday.
Fireworks. Don't be safe, please. We don't want to hear that somebody's lost
their hand. Have a hamburger, have some
enjoy enjoy a burger, a dog, whatever you're having, and we'll see you next week with what the hell did I say we were doing? Dark Star, right? Dark Star with Roy and Ross, crossover episode. So I'm sure we'll end up on their show at some point for something weird and bizarre.
We always do.
We always do. So, all right. On that note, we'll say good night, and as always, live long and prosper, and may the force be with you always. Good night.
Bye.